Hello everyone, thanks for being here today over lunchtime. We'll get started. So I'm Michael. I'm a developer advocate at Paddle. If you've not heard of us before, Paddle is a merchant of record, which means you can use us for billing, but we do a whole lot more than typical payments processor. In fact, there's a bit of a running joke at Paddle. First-time founders think getting paid online is easy. Second-time founders know better. While it's easier than ever to add payments to your app, building and maintaining a billing stack is complicated, especially as you begin to scale. The idea is that you plug in Paddle and you have everything you need to start, scale, and support your business. We take care of payments, calculate and remit taxes, manage chargebacks, refunds, and buyer support, and do a bunch of other stuff like localization, metrics, and subscription management. So Paddle has actually been around for over a decade. And in that time, we've come to an important realization. Your changelog tells your product's story. And it's more than just keeping a changelog. It's seeing your changelog as your most powerful technical marketing asset. For existing customers, it builds trust and drives product adoption. For prospects, it shows that you have a living, cared-for product delivered by a mature engineering team. Today, I'm going to share 3 lessons that transformed how developers interact with Paddle. First, keeping a changelog that speaks our customers' language. Second, communicating changes effectively. And third, starting small and modular. Now, let me start by telling you how we learned these lessons the hard way. Paddle launched back in 2012 as the easiest way to sell Mac apps globally. Over time, we added support for SaaS and other digital products. But honestly, the platform was creaking. Over the years, what we now call Paddle Classic had become fragmented and inconsistent. And we heard from developers about this a lot. We held listening groups and ran surveys, and one of the biggest pain points for developers was actually the way we handled changes. Paddle Classic had no concept of versioning and no real developer changelog. We announced all changes by email, even the breaking ones. Now, we knew this wasn't great, but what surprised us here is that this was right up there with inconsistent error messages and non-standard pagination. People considered change management a key part of the developer experience. At this point, developers weren't happy, and neither were we. As a technical product for a technical audience, we knew we needed to do better. So what did we do? We took a big risk, we took a big gamble, and we did that thing that you're not supposed to do. We re-platformed. So we spent 18 months rebuilding Paddle from the ground up. Eventually, what's launching Paddle Billing. We went all in on API first, with all teams building around a central API. But billing wasn't just a technical architecture overhaul. It was also a complete reimagining of Paddle. We realized that how we and our customers talk about our platform directly shapes what we build. Everything from a simple idea like what a price is to exactly what we mean by a transaction. All of this impacts how customers understand how Paddle works, and crucially, what Paddle can do for them. And this is our first lesson. Your API has to speak the language that your customers speak, and that includes your changelog. We've been live on billing for a couple of years now, and this storytelling is a key part of the development process. For every API change, we think about the why as well as the what. For us, it wasn't just that changes landed by email, but that changes happen with no context or insight. We needed to make developers feel like partners in the evolution of our platform and give them reasons to adopt new features. So the first thing we did was build a changelog. We built our own solution using Next.js and made this the center of our process. During the planning for this, we spotted that lots of API changelogs are just bulleted lists. And that's grand and definitely better than nothing. But what we heard was that customers really wanted to know why a change is useful and how they can get it, as well as what's new. In our case, even if we're just adding a new key to an object, there's a reason that we're doing that. So we tell people. We always make sure we're talking about the value prop as well as the technical change. But we found out that having a great changelog is only half the story. And this brings us on to the second lesson. You need to communicate your changes effectively. So we created a changelog, and it was lovely, but people just weren't looking at it. We needed to start talking about our changes and driving traffic to our changelog. And we do that in a few ways. So first, when a change lands, we release the changelog entry right away. We also have a Slack workflow that we run to let paddlers know. Sales, solutions, and other non-dev teams are often your biggest product champions. And this is a great way for engineering to be part of that enablement process by kind of marking the official release. And if you're using Postman, you can install the Postman Slack app to get notifications whenever a collection is updated. So this part is handled for you. Then, about weekly, we update our public assets. For us, this is our public Open API file and our public Postman workspace. One of the great things about being on the Postman API network is that you can use workspace updates. We use workspace updates to craft really visual posts linking directly to the resources that changed in Postman. You can think of it like a changelog within Postman itself, and it's fully optimized for SEO. And the really nice thing here is that anyone who's watched or forked our Postman collection gets notified right away in the Postman app and by email. Then, every month we send a developer roundup email that gives people a quick summary of what landed on the changelog. It's visual and easy to digest, pointing to content that we already created. And finally, every quarter or half a year, we work with product marketing on recaps for our commercial website and content for our keynote, Paddle Forward. Now, this might sound like a lot of work, but we didn't build this entire ecosystem overnight. And that's the third lesson. Start now and build in a modular way. We started with the changelog and expanded as we saw what resonated with developers. Plus, we create just one set of assets and reuse them throughout. An illustration size for social media, a one-line summary, a quick description, and then a single changelog entry that we can link to from every place that we share. So, what impact has this all had? For us, the results have been pretty great and somewhat surprising. Compared to Classic, we have a connected communication system that reaches people where they are and maximizes the impact of every engineering effort. And one really interesting thing that we spotted is that the changelog gets used a bunch in pre-commitment conversations too. Our sales team have been on calls where technical decision makers have found the changelog themselves and they're actively browsing it while on the call. They're engaged, they're asking questions, and they're impressed that Paddle is a living platform and they can see the care and attention that we put into each update. Also, we know existing customers forward our developer roundup to their friends too, so we're getting new prospects in the door that way. From developers, we don't hear frustrations at the way we're handling changes anymore, which is a win, and we hear that customers are adopting new features faster than ever. I think a great example of this is our customer portal. We had developers who implemented the portal in an afternoon, and they said the changelog was the main driver in them even considering implementing. We made it clear in the changelog entry that while it would take them a bit of work, it would save them a bunch of time over the long run, as well as giving them all of the implementation details they needed. Now, all of this is anecdotal, of course. If you want concrete numbers, we can dig into our Postman workspace metrics. In the month we started using Postman workspace updates, we increased collection views and doubled forks over the quarter. Forks are super important because they show strong buying intent. These are people actively engaging with your API. And this isn't just a one-time thing either. Whenever we post a workspace update, we notice that both of these figures spike. So, what can you take away from our journey? I'll recap by talking about the 3 lessons we learned. First, keep a changelog for your API and speak the language that your customers speak. You might think that nobody reads changelog entries, but the reality we found is that our changelog is one of our most viewed technical assets, used by all personas at all parts of the customer lifecycle. Make your changelog relevant and squeeze value out of your engineering changes by telling a product story that speaks to both technical implementation and business value. Second, communicate your changes effectively. And I'd go as far to say you should over-communicate your changes. There's this misconception that tech docs are only for developers who've integrated. But we've proved that your changelog can serve decision makers during pre-commitment too. Don't assume that customers and prospects are paying as much attention to your changelog as you are. Share in all the places they are, and make it easy for them to learn by batching up and summarizing your changes too. The Postman API network is your best friend here. With the Slack integration, Postman workspace updates, and built-in collection change tracking, a lot of this is handled for you. And finally, start now and iterate. You might think building a proper changelog ecosystem requires a bunch of work, but you could start with the tools that you already have. My advice, don't bother backdating. Just start creating changelog entries with 3 elements for each change: what's new, why it's valuable, and what your users need to do. You can reuse these points in all of your change comms. And remember, you don't need a fancy system to get started. A simple markdown file on GitHub is enough. Or even easier, you can use Postman workspace updates. And so I think we've gone like full circle. That takes us kind of back to where we started. In API-first companies, your changelog isn't just documentation. It's your product's public story. You should make yours a good one. Thanks. Thank you. I'll be around after this if anyone wants to chat more, or you can grab me at the bar at the after party later. Cheers.